Okay, our speaker today are from Ellis Manufacturing, company in town here. They have a presentation for us on the little history of Ellis Manufacturing. Has been a mainstay in our community for many, many years, and kind of quietly make saw blades and saws and things like this over just off from behind Hometown Junction Park there. So I was talking with Bobby and coaxed her into doing this presentation, and so we're very happy to have them come and give us a little history of Ellis Manufacturing. And by the way, there's cookies up here. Everybody brought cookies and some soda, so help yourself while they're getting all set up here, and enjoy the show. So, Ellis Manufacturing, who's our speaker here?
Good morning, I'm Bobby Drury. I own Ellis Manufacturing. This is my daughter Jo and my son Jonas. Over here we have Randy Gerke, who is our longest time employee. He started in 1973. He is currently the supervisor of manufacturing. All right, Ellis Manufacturing can trace its origin to the Madison Plow Company, which originated in 1911. By 1945, their most important product was the Bemis transplanter, which had 42% of the transplanter market. These planters were called jobbers. In 1950, D.R. Ellis, the former vice president of the Madison Plow Company, purchased a wood structure at 100 Railroad Street here in Verona and began manufacturing transplanters with his two sons, Wayne and Homer. If at any time you have any questions, just shout them out.
Now the transplanters, they were primarily tobacco transplanters?
Yes. Later on, they could be used for anything that went in the ground as a plant. And they used them for cabbage, small nursery stock, and later on they became very popular with strawberries. That's a picture of D.R. Ellis, who is my grandfather, Wayne's father, and that was a one-row transplanter. Each row required 2 planters. I think the largest planter they ever made was a 6-row, which would hold 12 people, which was a lot of weight to lift. I thought you might be interested in a list of some of the employees back in 1952 and 1964. You might recognize some of the names there. I have handouts, so anybody that wants one can pick one up afterwards. The average rate of pay in 1952 is $1.15 per hour, and we bought a punch press for $532, a turret lathe for $500, and a compressor for $500. Just to give you an example, we recently purchased a new compressor for $5,500. We added a metal building to this wood structure in 1953, and these were called track-T buildings. Now, track-T buildings are still being made in Sun Prairie. They look a lot different. The company was incorporated in 1960, and the name was D.R. Ellis Manufacturing Company. Then they added another metal building, and that building, well, that's wrong. Construction on the metal building, they started construction on a metal building at 107 Railroad Street. I am told that that was owned by...
Well, no, I thought it was Westner Furniture owned that, but actually Ellis owned it, and Wayne rented a section out to Westner Furniture to store their furniture. That's about the time I came in. Westner went out of business like in '71, And I came in 1973, but there was a partition there, and then Wayne told me that Western Furniture used part of that to store the extra furniture and stuff. So that's, I had even that wrong, just time goes by. I thought it was the other way around, but no.
I know we use the building to put transplanters together, and now it's used for painting and prep work. That picture shows a 2-row planter with a water barrel.
That's a question. Yeah. I'm just too curious. On that picture, are they like bending down and putting the plants in, or are they dropping them on a chute? How does that thing work?
Oh, in that type of transplanter, there was a wheel that went around. And they would, there was one wheel between 2 people. And you'd put the plant in with the root facing up so that when it went down, it went into the ground. And there was a, what do you call those?
Well, what it was is it made a furrow in the ground like a plow. So and it opened up the ground, and then the wheel, there were 6 fingers on it, so every other person, like it would plant it, depending on what type of sprocket you put in there, you could go 6 inches apart, 12 inches apart, whatever you were putting cabbages or tobacco. I couldn't tell you what the spacing on tobacco is. But then, like Bobby said, then in those boxes, I'll show you a picture of it here, but in those boxes were the plants. So this person would put one in, root up, the finger would close on it gently and go around. The next person to the left of you would put one in, and then would come around, put it in the ground, and then after it furrowed in the ground, there was a water barrel, gave it a shot of water, and then in back of that, there was a device that kind of folded the ground afterwards. So if you look backwards, you could go a mile down the field, there'd be 6 inches apart with tobacco, planted with a shot of water, and you just go out, and it would cut, and then would have to mark it, and you'd come around, and then do it again. So they just do fields of tobacco. So that's basically how the planter worked, was humans putting it in a finger.
How do they plant tobacco now?
Same way.
Same thing. There's the technology really hasn't changed. Whatever happened in the 50s is basically.
When they came to an end of a row, of course, they had to lift those people up. So that 6-row planter was pretty heavy.
Yeah. Like a 6-row or a single row went on a 3-point hitch. And hydraulically lift it up, and the tractor turn around and set it back in the
So you needed
ground.
2 people for 1 row.
Correct, just like Bobby said, yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, like, the tobacco in Wisconsin, like Stoughton, Baroque and stuff, that was chewing tobacco. Down south and stuff in the Carolinas and stuff, that was most smoking tobacco. So a lot of people don't, the Wisconsin tobacco was most chewing tobacco.
And the railroad tracks, which is where the bike trail is now, is, where?
Right here.
Oh. And they would load the transplanters right on the railroad tracks. A lot of them were shipped to the Carolinas. They were big in transplanters. That's a picture of my dad, Wayne Ellis, there. He was the one that was out in the shop working and developing things. His brother Homer was the numbers man who sat in the office and did numbers. Jonas has a nice story about Homer. Homer was the numbers man. Maybe Jonas would tell the story that he thought was kind of funny.
Well, just looking through notes from 1950s to the 60s, but just going across, the prices of things and what people made, and all of a sudden I came across the inventory for 1964. And Homer, you going down the line of certain things cost so much, sprockets, nuts, bolts, but all of a sudden one line says, toilet paper, 8 rolls. Counted toilet paper too. Boy, he was efficient, I guess.
In '73, we added another tracky building, which is pictured there. You can see both buildings there. And I looked up online, and when Charles Lindbergh flew into Madison in 1927, they housed the Spirit of St. Louis in one of these tracky buildings at Pemco Field. I can find no information on Pemco Field, so.
I think it was out where ABC It's a big plumbing outfit out up
Yeah.
in the marsh area.
It's where Southtown is.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
okay.
it was also called Royal Airport.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I did see that online,
Yeah.
yeah. And then that small concrete building to the left of the Tracky building, we used to store steel. And Randy spent a lot of time in there.
Yeah, they're gonna let me speak later, but just like things, since you got this up here, like what was kind of neat about these tracky buildings, like I say, this here was a giant east trough, so when the rain came, everything there, and then it ran down a spout and come out in the street. Some of this stuff I had put up and stuff like, because above the old barn, everything, the planters back then were all horse drawn. So all this stuff, you know, the beams and things that were upstairs, and these are the wheels that were on, and I made signs of that, it said Ellis, and that came from it. And then this little box in here was called a tumbler. It's just like a gigantic cement mixer. It had a big door on it, so a lot of the planter parts, when you make them, instead of grinding them by hand, because they had sharp edges from when you sheared them or sawed them or punched them, then you'd throw everything in there, and then we used to go to the FS building, which was across the street, you get corn cobs, and then I was taught this, and then you throw the corn cobs in with so many metal parts, and you put the door in, and it would just tumble. It would just turn all day long. Some of the neighbors in there, the noise and stuff, you couldn't start it to really. But the end result, then you would dump it out into things, and it would take all the oil off. It would clean and tamper all the edges so nothing would be sharp, and then actually it kind of helped and kind of scored the metal, and that made the paint stick to it real good. So that's basically how we cleaned the part and ground the part, you know, in massive quantity. So that was called a tumbler, and I guess that's about. And then this dock here, when we ordered steel, we'd get it in. It wasn't nothing to get a semi-load of steel, maybe 4,500 pounds of steel, and every bit of it was lifted on with a forklift onto the dock. But believe it or not, back then we would shut down and we'd take piece by piece inside. We'd store it in the shed here, or take it inside. But one person, it'd be 20-foot bars, and one person would be on one end, one on the other, and that's how you spent most of the day putting all the steel away by hand. Well, nowadays that don't happen, but back then that's just the way they did it. A lot of people don't know that. I guess that's about it. I'll let it go.
Well, in '75, another metal building was added to that other building up above, and so it kind of looks like one building now, but in that building we put saws together today.
I have a question.
Sure.
What year did the building burn?
Oh, we'll come into that.
Oh, are you? Okay.
This is a picture that was taken in '78 showing that building 1 and 2 that I was talking about that we put up. You can see where Pasquale Tractor was, where the gas station was.
You are here now.
That's where we're at.
Yep.
The other building there is the Danco Fertilizer Storage Building. And then there's that former Carnes building. It's a brick block building. And as we come to that, we'll see that we purchased that. Okay. In 1978, Wayne and Margaret Ellis bought out Wayne's brother. Now, Margaret is my stepmother. These are pictures inside the Track T buildings where Randy worked for so many years. They are, you can see there was not a lot of space to move around. In that one picture, there's an Ellis saw in the middle of the picture.
Randy, when did you move out of that building? Do you remember?
Yeah, in November of 1999 is when the current building, where the FS building sat, was built. So we've been over there in our new building for about 15 years now. So that's when we moved over from the Tracky building over to where we are now.
You could barely walk in this building. One time OSHA came and they walked in and then walked back out. Okay. Here's the fire. In December of '78 was the fire.
78.
I don't have that picture up. We have another picture of somebody's car. And we have a car here too, so we knew exactly when it was.
Yeah, that's my car.
Oh, is it?
Randy's car there.
Lincoln.
Huh?
You have a Lincoln?
He was a Thunderbird.
Oh,
Is that right?
The fire was very hot. I think it started with some paint pads.
Yeah, about that time, we used to dip everything into like a green paint vat, and then we went to the spray, and we think, we laid out the filters. We didn't know a lot about it then, and the spray wood, but they were laid out. We think it self-combusted. They think that's how the story did. They never really come out with really a cause of it.
The fire was so hot that it went up, and so they didn't lose any machinery. The machinery still had the motors, still ran and everything. Next. This is the first saw, the Model 90S. The S stood for spring because it didn't have a hydraulic on it. It just had a spring, and you had to raise and lower that by hand, right?
Yep, by this handle here. So you stood there, after you clamped your material in, you grabbed there and you guided the saw head down as it cut the material.
That picture also shows it at a 45-degree angle. Now the head moved left and right 45 degrees, so you could make angle cuts. And that's why we call them mitering saws. We show the saw in a vertical position, and the one in the horizontal position with a small stock stand. In '79, they incorporated a company called Ellis Machine Tools to manufacture and sell the saws. Here's a picture of Randy. During the '70s, American Saw Company sold our saw under the name of the Lennox Mobile Miter. Here's Randy with the Model 90S. And on the next page of the brochure, it shows Randy using a saw in a,
Oh, yeah.
we didn't show that, but we have Randy using the saw in the vertical
Can you go
position.
back one?
Sure.
I don't know why they did this back then, but Randy decided to straddle this part and do some cutting like this on it, like you saw. So, and they had that in the brochure, and I started laughing. I was like, I'm sure OSHA loves this. Not only can you cut, but you can have a seat while you're doing it.
And if I could interject, the reason the claim to fame is we had other saws there made by other companies. Like when I first started, obviously you have to have chicken before the egg, or vice versa. But it mitered, so your stock was 20-foot long in a hot roll piece, or 12-foot long in a cold roll piece. Well, some of them you had to move the stock at that angle to cut it. When it was in a longer cut. But with the miter, the saw moved and the piece stayed straight. So that's what kind of separated it from, other saws, it's kind of a big.
It also has cartwheels, so you could pick it up and roll it to where you wanted to cut. But we still,
It was mobile, yeah.
yeah. Oh, in 1981, we shipped 500 transplanters to Nigeria. This shows them loading a container for that. And that was the last large order ever produced of the transplanters. In 1983, we started welding bandsaw blades. Picture of Jonas next to some
That's
box.
not what I looked like in 1983. I was still watching Scooby-Doo back then.
Go back one. The bandsaw blades are, we get the stock in, and then they're cut to length, then they're welded to the length that people want them, then they're annealed, and then they're ground. Am I right so far? And then they're hung on these
We call them trees.
trees until we're ready to ship them. And we have to coil them, tag them, put them in a box.
Can I interject something quick? My brother Tom, he was, Bobby put him in charge of, he was in the blade department. And Wayne, he's seen this going on at other companies, said, we can do this. And he bought it's called Ideal Welder, and that's how it all got started. And Tom they just figured things out on their own, you know. And actually, we were lucky because you could test their own blades, because we made, you know, a saw, so you could put it on there and say, geez, okay, you know, the welds are not holding, or so you could kind of test yourself on how you were doing these things. And then the funny thing is, and then after you got done, you could take the blade and you had one hand over to and you just by twisting it, you put it in a circle to put it in a box. But you had to watch it when you took it apart. I mean, it would just coil. But a lot of people would call in to Bobby and these guys, well, you know, you set your blade, it's backwards. But, you know, just by twisting it, you know, you could make the teeth go the other way. We roll with the teeth on backwards.
There is a famous story, and it has to do with Tom and his brother, and this was, I think, in the early 90s or maybe 80s, but it was a long time ago, but a guy came and got blades from Baraboo, and Tom saw him leave. Well, about an hour and a half later, this guy shows up again, walks in the shop, red-faced, madder than hell, throws his blades at Tom, and he says, you know, you welded my blades backwards. Tom took one out of the box, and he went like this, and he goes, and he flipped it inside out, and he goes, how's it now? The guy went like this. I think Tom even said, next time you can call. It's a true story, because Tom to this day laughs about it.
I just want to mention one thing, because you reminded me of it. The Ideal Welders that they use to weld the blades together are manufactured in Germany, and I lived in Germany for many years, and my grandfather came over to visit one time, and we actually went to the manufacturing facility of Ideal in Lippstadt in Germany, which wasn't that maybe an hour from where I lived. So that was kind of interesting to go there and see something like that firsthand that we ordered.
And we started out with a much smaller welder that was made
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
States.
just maybe the size of a red box or whatever. It wasn't like now, I mean, they're huge.
How many of them do we have now? About 5, right?
3 or 4, I think. 6. In 1985, we began manufacturing a belt grinder, basically because Wayne wanted a belt grinder and he couldn't find one he liked, so he made one. That shows the first model, and the current model today is has a lot more stuff on it. You can grind on that wheel, and Jonas, you can show them where you can do the flat grinding.
Oh, this right here flaps up like this, so you could do some flat grinding on top. Original did not do that. They kind of figured out, hey, there's some wasted space here. We could do something with it with some flats. And here, where it's sharpening a lawnmower blade, I think it's the best way to sharpen a lawnmower blade ever, personally. I think back in the early 90s, I think his name is it Dick at Ace?
Yeah.
He came in and bought one of these. I think he told me, pretty sure he told me, he paid for the belt grinder in one summer of lawnmower blades.
They're kind of a pricey little item because they're so good. So you can get a much cheaper grinder at Menards, but
They don't hold up.
yeah. All right. In '86, we purchased that concrete block building and some land from the Carnes Company. And that building is now used to manufacture the belt grinder and drill presses, and a small R&D department run by Tom Bruner. There's a picture of the building there behind the two-row planter. And then in '89, we stopped making transplanters altogether. We retired the name of Ellis Tool Company and changed the name to Ellis Manufacturing Company, Incorporated. This is Dwayne Woodhouse, who was our saw production supervisor loading a truck for delivery.
Yeah, then still works at Ellis today as well. So
Yeah.
he's been a long time. Yeah, you guys go back pretty far, don't you?
Yeah.
He started there in '78.
Yeah.
This is the building that we built adjacent to the Carnes building, where we have blade welding and the offices. This is the old Danko place that we tore down. When the building we erected in place of this one is where Randy works, where we do all our saw manufacturing. This shows them taking down the building, and it shows Reynolds moving the large punch press from the Tracky building to across the street to the, you know how much that weighed?
No, I actually don't. I'm guessing probably maybe anywhere 4 to 5 ton. It's, the wheels on it, I mean, I kind of don't do it justice. I mean, they're 6 foot across. I mean, they're all solid cast iron. In fact, it's funny that Bobby mentioned that now. We don't use it no more today. It still runs, but we got a smaller punch press just because the OSHA, just didn't have a lot of guarding on it. There was a lot of gears going, and you just couldn't go to your local hardware store and pick up a part for it. It's all, it had parts that had to be made and stuff. So we were going to try to, Jonas lined up somebody, we were hoping they could take it to their museum. There's a guy from Monroe, but he just stopped by the other day and said the guy just doesn't have the money and the resources to bring it back to life. This guy, he has old machinery.
So it is for sale if you're interested.
So basically, it's still down there, but it's we don't know what to do with it now. Probably just scrap it out.
97, we connected building 3 with the Carnes building, so it all looks like one building now, and then we put a metal siding on it, so it looks like one building. And then in 99, we started selling drill presses. That box there, you can show them, Jonas, the control box. We put that on there, and then you can, what does it do?
It allows for variable speed of the drill press spindle. If you've got one of these in your garage, like you got at Menards or Harbor Freight or whatever, traditional drill presses have 3 speeds. Maybe it's, I'll make something up, 900 RPM, 12, and 1500 RPM. So, and then if you want to change the speed, you want to go to the middle speed, you have to get a screwdriver underneath and back that out from the pulley and go down to the next one. Well, meanwhile, you've used 6 swear words and bloodied your knuckles. So, well, what happens is, it's hard to, we condense that into one pulley, and there's a mechanism going on inside here, but what happens is, you could have this rotate at this, or you could go 2,000 RPMs. It makes it completely safe. So if you're doing a big hole, you put a little hole saw in there, and you want to do a 2-inch hole, you can go as slow as you want. You're not destined to work with only 3 speeds, and risk your life to drill this hole. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. You can go as slow or as fast as you need to.
And you can reverse
And 3
it.
different torque settings. There's instant reversing. So if you put a tap in here and you drill, you just flip the switch to reverse and it backs itself right up.
And the pulleys in that box work with the torque. You can change the torque on them. This is a picture that we took in 1990 of all the employees. 10 of those employees are still with us.
So just to be annoying, here's Randy.
The good looking
Here's
one.
Bobby.
Where's Dwayne on that? And Wayne Ellis is on there too.
Yeah, here's Wayne.
Yeah. Next one. This is Jonas at Orange County Choppers. I think he was out there a couple of times, aren't you?
Yep.
You may have seen our products on their show. Jonas said they were very, very nice people.
I operation yours, do you know, or?
As far as I know, but I know nothing really.
I've seen it on TV,
Yeah.
your saw.
When we got there, this was like literally during the middle of their first season when they were just becoming hot. They were selling their t-shirts out of this trailer. That's how they did it. They hired a couple people that just sat there and there was a line and they sold t-shirts for 20 bucks. And they were making something like $30,000 a month out of this trailer just selling t-shirts. So when we showed up, they were trying to get ready to do some filming that day to build a bike and whatnot. And this is Eddie here. And then Eddie and I came up, and these guys, and Paul Sr. and Paul Jr., in case you've never seen the show. Well, Sr., very scowl, he's always yelling at Junior, always on the show. Well, you know, he comes out, he's bubbling, shakes her hand, hi, how you doing? And I said, hey, can we get a picture for back home? And he did. So, I mean, you know, just when there's a camera in front of him, he turns into Mr. Scowl. You know, that's the way he is. But very nice.
About 10 years before they started that show, it was called Paul's Welding, and they did buy a few things from us. And I made a note on their account that we weren't to sell to them anymore because they were such a-holes. 10, 15 years later, we're giving them machines so they can be on TV. Here's the latest picture we took, office staff up there, and employees and some of our friends and associates are pictured below. This is the Ellis Dragster. The dragster is a 235-inch dragster used in straight line racing. It goes from 0 to 175 miles an hour in 7 seconds, 1,000 horsepower, and it's driven by our accountant, Howard Schluter. He's got to do something in the off-season. Presently, we manufacture 8 different models of saws, anywhere from a 1/2 inch up to 1 1/4 inch. And that's a picture of our model 1600, which is a 1-inch blade. One of our, it's a more popular saw because it's so easily portable.
It's the #1 saw we sell.
And the saws,
Are your saws mainly for big manufacturing or are they?
no, they're for anybody.
Oh,
They're primarily for metal cutting.
oh,
If you want a piece of wood in there and cut it away, sure, but it's not what it's for. It's for your tubings, rounds, pipe, and numerous things. Everything, you know, that was, all these things here, if it wasn't sheared, but we're cut using our own saw. All this tubing is down in Randy's building, and it gets put on a stock stand, and it gets cut on our own machines.
We use our own drill presses, belt grinders, and saws all over the shop. The 3 saws smaller than the 1600 are not sold very much anymore, but our larger ones are getting very popular because they'll cut bigger pieces of steel. However, we do sell to mainly dealers, mainly welding shops, machine shops. But one of our biggest buyers was the movie industry, and I think we still sell to them quite a bit. What they would do is they would call in and say, I need a saw, we're filming a movie, I'm making the background stuff for Pirates of the Caribbean. And he was a pretty good customer, and he would send us some nice pictures too. And then maybe when that filming was done, they would close that account. So when they went to make Pirates of Home Alone, they'd start a new account under the name of that movie. And I think we've sold to over 100 different movies. We've sold saws to hospitals because they use them in their maintenance. Sold a saw to a submarine once. But everybody that has maintenance, a large maintenance department, needs the saw, basically.
And shop classes and university maintenance departments as well.
You have a question?
Two questions. One, I'm curious to know what a saw like that would cost, should I ever think about buying one.
The Model 16,
And the second question is, do you sell direct, or do you have dealers?
let me answer the first question first. How much is the Model 1600?
This costs $33.95.
$33.95 list price. We've never sold anything for list price in our lives. Much to my chagrin. And what was your second question?
I wondered how you market the product.
Okay, all of our marketing is done in-house. We have hired an outside sales force, but we provide the office for him. He and his 3 sons sell the saws via the phone. We've never gone on the road.
But also, we have distributors throughout the nation. We have a couple up in Canada. We've sold stuff to other countries, but it's very, very rare. We make other people just take care of it. We take care of North America is what we do. So in Madison, if you would like to see some of our stuff, it's Badger Welding there on East Wash. But wherever you go up north, Mississippi Welders, Machine Weldings, Matheson.
Airgas and Praxair are,
Praxair, big ones.
Do you have like sales books or something so people can look to see what your products are?
Or a website.
and we basically have a brochure on each model. We don't have one on everything.
Yeah, we're just redoing some of them right now. That's where I'm kind of involved in that.
Joe works for me part-time, and she does that and helps with inventory and some other things. The rest of the time, she teaches German sometimes, and sometimes she does other things. This is a sign out in front at 107 West Railroad. And the last picture is a picture of...
Not yet uploaded website. It's our new website.
So we'll have this on it. But if you go to www.lssaws.com, you'll see our old website. You can see videos. You can see everything we make. We do not list the price there, but
Can we see Randy?
I don't think so.
He isn't even listening, so we can say whatever we want.
Yeah.
He's still not listening.
Still not listening.
Now, I brought some handouts, and there's some hats, some Ellis hats, if you'd like one to help yourself. The large, are they extra large or large? You need an extremely big hat for those. And in the box, Randy, there's some, if you want to get them out, there's some DVDs. We made this DVD in the year 2000, so it's not really, thanks for coming, Roxy. So it's really not up to date, but all of the workings of the saw are correct. Like a lot of the new safety stuff is not shown.
Drill press, belt grinder, bandsaw blades, it's one.
The whole DVD is 25 minutes long, so if you just wanted to look at the saw portion, it would only take you 10 minutes. It's, so help yourself to any of that. I think that's all. Randy, did you have anything else?
I just wonder if I could just say a few things, if you don't
You
mind.
need
Unless
to.
it's a short time.
I knew Ellis Manufacturing was down on Railroad Street. Well, I went last year. Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just make it short.
Interesting.
This here I brought in, Wayne Ellis would he'd be just tickled to death. You could have seen what happened, but this year at, I think it was up in Sauk, the Farm Technology Day, they did a scale model of our planter, the 470 model. And I mean, for me, when it came out, I just couldn't believe it, because everything on here, my hands touched, or I made, or it just meant so much to me, but I can imagine what Wayne Ellis, what he would have thought about this. So I'll just kind of pass this around. The tractor, obviously we didn't make, but I mean, the planter, you can kind of pass that around, kind of what we're talking about, where you sat and planning things. And I'll just When I started March. I started March 2nd, 1973. Before that, I graduated in 1972, and I worked for the lumber company. I drove a truck for them for a little bit. And I just didn't like that direction it was going, so in shop class, I took welding and metal fabrication and stuff, so one day I walked across the street because the lumber company was right across from them, and I walked in there, and here's Homer sitting at the desk. Here's one little black rotary phone and a number 2 pencil, because he did everything by then. And when you think about nowadays with the computer and the technology, how they keep track of everything, it just boggles your mind, that he did this all by hand. Because like Bobby said, he was a numbers man. And anyhow, I asked him, I says, I'm looking for a job. He says, when can you start? I said, next week. This was at the end of February, and the rest is history. So in other words, this coming March, I've been at Ellis for 43 years. I mean, and I've had a good time through all of it. A lot of good things and some bad things, but they help the community so much. I see my cousin Richard Durford, his son Gary worked, I think, for a couple summers. I see Dan Hoffman here, his dad Louie and his uncle Walter worked there. Just good workers. I mean, I learned all that stuff from them. Good people. It was people that you went to the weddings and funerals. You were comfortable to go over their house and play cards. Just
4 generations of Gerkeys working there at one time.
Yeah, at one time, even my wife Nancy worked, Margaret, and she was pregnant with our first child. She says, come on in and do some filing and stuff. They just looked out for everybody. We were just like family. I can't say enough about Wayne and Margaret, and even Bobby and Jonas and Joe, what they've done for me. And I think for the Verona community, as far as giving jobs. And when you think about it, I mean, we go down to Ace Hardware, we use them. We try to stay local to get things that we need. I guess, then I'll go to the fire. I was married in August 1978, August 12th, and I lived about where Paul Marty is, the upper flat. We had his insurance company right by the bank. And that December, when the Ellis built, because it overlooked Verona and stuff, and I looked out the window, I said, geez, Nancy, I think I might be out of a job. And here, Ellis Manufacturing was on fire. So I went down there, and the town pump was right next to it, and there was Santa Claus standing out watching, the fire and stuff. And I helped out by saying, the oxygen tanks and different tanks were there, to look out for that. And then Nigerian order, when that came up, like Bobby said, that was one of our last big orders. But I remember putting in 80 hours in 1 week. It wasn't just me, but a lot of people. But you work all day and then go home for lunch and come back and work that night, to meet the deadline. But it all worked out. And I know even Wayne and Margaret, to make payroll and stuff, they came out of their own savings. I mean, money was really tight, to get this order out, and it happened. And I think that catapulted them. They bought Homer out. And Wayne seen the vision of the Ellis saw. So I think that was a good move, because the product liability on the planter, the tobacco industry was kind of phasing out and stuff. So as far as the bandsaw and the drill presses and the grinders, I think was a very good move on Wayne's part. I guess all the way we did things then were shear it and grind it and everything by hand, but now with the technology, the laser companies and stuff, it's cheaper for us to sometimes send out and have things lasered up and come in and then just weld them. We still make a lot of stuff in-house. And I guess in closing, I just want to thank Wayne and Margaret. They're gone now, but like I say, they were a big part of my life. I want to thank Bobby and Jonas and Joe, and for all the things they've done for me. And like Bobby stated before, the families, my generation of family, my father, my brothers, my wife worked there. The Fella family, I'm sure you all know the Fella family. I mean, Donnie and his 2 boys had worked there, the Hoffmans. So in closing, I think Ellis has done a lot for Verona. We've been a quiet company. I don't think a lot of people knows about it. But the families and cousins and things they've helped out, I think they did very good. And I hope it continues on for years to come. Thank you very much.